money, fame, power at first glance, and even to the naked eye, they seem very attractive and even tempting. But deep down, a person feels that this is not enough to be called the meaning of life. Money can't buy everything. For example, you can't buy health or love with it. Power is fickle. Today you rule, tomorrow you are ruled. The more power a person has, the less free they become. Power and money must be guarded, watched over and multiplied, or else they will simply be taken away from you. Human fame is fleeting. Today you are a star, and tomorrow you will be forgotten, just as quickly as new stars are celebrated today. The pain of being forgotten will overshadow and destroy even the most grateful memories. When it comes down to it, we are only truly interesting to those closest to us. And hungry rumbling in one's stomach will make a person forget about someone else's fame and force them to satisfy their own needs. A person who seeks only pleasure is also unhappy. Every pleasure is like a fire, it burns as long as there is fuel, and eventually it dies out. A pleasure that is repeated often loses its power. The thirst for pleasure is like intoxication. Each time it demands a higher dose. Pleasure turns into suffering if it is not kept within limits. It can make a person a slave. By the way, money, power and fame can also enslave a person. And very often that's exactly what happens. In other words, instead of the expected happiness, a person becomes dependent, a slave. And at some point in his life, he feels that material things alone are not enough for him. They are unable to set him free or make him truly happy. He intuitively begins to search for a higher meaning, a higher truth, something worth living for. And as one of the greats once said, you should live for something you would be willing to die for. Let's be honest. No one wants to die for fame, money, or power. And dying for pleasure is foolish, because what pleasure is there in death? You can die for the sake of life, paradoxical as that may sound, for the sake of gaining eternal life with God. Because with God there is no death, for He is the source of life, and whoever is in Him and with Him is beyond death. But the body thus dies and rises again, because Christ is risen, and with Him all who are in Him will also rise. And then death is no longer death, but a passage, a gateway to another life, to eternal life. What could be more natural than to be with your Creator? What could be more honorable than to serve Him? What could have more meaning than to dedicate your life to Him, to put Him first, and everything else in its proper place? But no, a person puts himself first, and then God starts to get in the way, because he limits his desires, which are mistakenly taken for the meaning of life. By placing himself above God, a person cannot acknowledge or know the truth. It is the person himself who prevents himself from accepting God. Only a person can open the door of his own heart. And to do that, he must feel such an emptiness inside that only God can fill.